Welcome to Mahida Academy. I am Sonia Khan, your teaching methodology instructor. Today we will learn about research instruments in education. As educators, administrators, and researchers, selecting the correct instrument is paramount to obtaining high-integrity data. We will deconstruct the functional utility of action research, analyze survey and observational methodologies, and explore sophisticated psychometric scaling techniques used to quantify variables within the affective domain. This session is designed to establish a definitive gold standard understanding of educational assessment tools. These objectives map directly to the competencies required for advanced educational leadership and research. We want to move past mere recognition of these tools and instead focus on critical evaluation. You should leave today knowing precisely when to deploy a checklist versus a rating scale, or how a Thurstone scale fundamentally differs from a Likert scale in construction and validation. Before we can choose an instrument, we must understand the overarching framework of action research. Unlike fundamental or basic research, which seeks to build macro-level academic theories that apply globally, action research is intentionally narrow. Conceptualized by Kurt Lewin, its beauty lies in its localization. It empowers the classroom teacher or school administrator to investigate issues within their own four walls, offering immediate utility rather than abstract theory. The operational mechanics of action research rely entirely on this cyclical methodology: plan, act, observe, reflect. For example, if a teacher notices a decline in reading comprehension, they plan a new reciprocal teaching strategy. They act by executing it over a set period. They observe by gathering student performance data. And they reflect on whether the strategy worked. If it didn't, the cycle restarts immediately with adjustments. It is a dynamic, evolutionary process. Let's transition to survey instruments, starting with questionnaires. We divide these primarily into closed-ended and open-ended structures. Closed-ended questionnaires give us easily tabulatable, highly reliable quantitative data, making them ideal for large cohorts. However, they lack depth. Open-ended questionnaires give us unparalleled qualitative richness, but they demand significant time to analyze and introduce potential researcher bias during the data coding phase. When a questionnaire is insufficient, we move to interviews. A structured interview removes the human variance. The script is rigid, making data cross-comparison incredibly easy and reliable. However, the true gold standard for deep educational research is the semi-structured interview. It provides a standardized framework, but allows the researcher to follow intellectual breadcrumbs via probing questions, revealing underlying student or teacher motivations that a rigid script would completely miss. Direct observation is critical because what people say they do in surveys often differs from what they actually do. We have three main weapons here. Checklists are strictly binary: yes or no, present or absent. They do not measure quality. Rating scales introduce a continuum, allowing us to evaluate performance quality or frequency. Lastly, anecdotal records provide an objective, historical narrative of a standalone event. The key rule for anecdotal records: write down exactly what happened and leave your personal assumptions out of the description. A major threat to any observational data collection is the Hawthorne Effect, often called observer reactivity. The moment students or faculty know they are being evaluated, their behavior artificially changes, usually for the better. As researchers, we must account for this. If we draw conclusions based entirely on a one-off, highly anticipated observation window, our data lacks authentic validity. Quantifying the affective domain, people's attitudes and beliefs, is famously difficult. Let's look at the first two major scales designed for this. The Likert scale is a summated rating system. It measures agreement levels on a symmetric path from strongly disagree to strongly agree. The Semantic Differential scale, developed by Osgood, takes a completely different structural approach. It doesn't use agreement statements. Instead, it anchors the ends of the spectrum with polar opposite adjectives, like complex and simple, allowing the respondent to mark their psychological position between them. The Thurstone scale, or the method of equal appearing intervals, is far more complex to build than a Likert scale. It shifts the heavy lifting to the front end of the research. You generate statements and have a panel of expert judges mathematically weight them before the target subjects ever see them. When respondents take the survey, they simply check the items they agree with, and we calculate their score based on those expert-calibrated weights. It provides incredibly precise, high-authority intervals. For those preparing for competitive professional examinations like the FPSC, examiners frequently test your ability to differentiate these three scales. Memorize these exact operational triggers. If the question describes tracking levels of agreement, it's Likert. If it highlights polar opposite descriptors or bipolar adjectives, it's Semantic Differential. If it mentions a panel of judges pre-weighting items, it's always Thurstone. Let's run through a quick concept check to solidify our understanding. Look at this scenario. We see a teacher dealing with an immediate, highly localized classroom problem. They implement a change, observe, and analyze. This perfectly mirrors Kurt Lewin's cyclical loop, making C the clear and indisputable answer. In this second scenario, notice the strict language. No evaluative judgment or assumption. The administrator wrote down only raw, verifiable facts with a timestamp. Because it is a factual narrative of an isolated, significant event, it fits the definition of an anecdotal record perfectly. Thank you for watching this video. Visit mahitaacademy.org for more lessons and courses. If you like the video, hit the like button. Have a good day.